Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I am your host, Nathaniel. We're super thrilled to have a special guest today, Jonathan Glass, joining us. Jonathan is a naturopathic doctor, and he's the founder of and author of the Total Life Cleanse. He's got a really impressive bio here. You know, not only are you a master acupuncturist, you're an Ayurvedic practitioner. We were just talking about like the depth of knowledge that's there. Also, energy healing and herbalism, as well as an educator. So you really have like this holistic frame, Jonathan. You've been in this field for a while, and I imagine you've seen a lot of transformation in the times that you've been in the field. You know, more of an acceptance of holistic health and people looking for solutions that are outside of the mainstream path of genes and germ theory. So I'd love to welcome you onto the Love Pod. We're really thrilled to have you here. I'd just like to invite you to let our listeners know more about who you are and what is the fuel behind this passion that you have.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the name of your podcast
Thank you.
and the energy that you guys put out. So this is really wonderful.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I think you asked me what gives me the passion behind it, who I am. So you mentioned pretty much, everything I do. We've been in the Boston area since about 1992,
Mm.
and we opened up a healing center. We have a multi-practitioner center, chiropractor, body workers. We have a psychic medium, Catherine Glass, and myself, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, naturopathy, energy healing. So, yeah, busy practice for many years. And I think, the thing that got me into this really was, I think, my own health issues.
Mm.
Growing up, I had horrible allergies, and I was on antibiotics probably every year until I was about 18 years old of my life.
Mm.
And I was an athlete, and I discovered in
Mm.
college that changing my diet made a huge difference. I had no clue. And then I got into yoga and meditation, and I found out that that helped also.
Mm.
So it was very practical for me. I found out that meditation helped me be a better soccer player,
Yeah.
helped me focus more, helped me have less anxiety in social situations. And I noticed it was a real thing. It wasn't just a cute little addition to life. It was very meaningful. And I also discovered, like I said, that changing my diet made a huge difference, and just became very passionate about it.
Mm.
And I just pursued my studies in yoga and meditation, and also simultaneously Ayurveda and Chinese medicine.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, just even each one of those fields as a whole universe of knowledge. My partner Julia, she had a pretty profound transformation. She was like anaphylactically allergic to many nuts and foods and stuff.
Mm.
Then moved to Italy for a time, met a naturopathic doctor who also practiced acupuncture. And she went through a total transformation, did a lot of healing, changed her diet, lifestyle, and then now she's fine to eat most of those things. There's a few that she
Wow.
still is more afraid to try, but yeah. So I can attest to seeing that transformation in her, and I think it's really important, you know, especially these times. People are looking for more solutions that are rooted in not only ancient wisdom but more natural and earth-based solutions. So I think it's amazing that, you know, and so many people find discoveries for themselves and then want to share. They have that passion.
Hmm.
So yeah, like what's your favorite part of the work that you're doing now and sharing this with others, Jonathan?
Gosh, I mean, one of my favorite things is that it's a never-ending learning process.
Mm.
So there's always more to learn. There's always more to refine. COVID changed everything.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us were on a run, on a trajectory, and uh, we had our ways of dealing with things, and all of a sudden, not only did it change our life and our lifestyle, but it also changed how we had to treat people.
Mm.
And things have never been quite the same, really, in the immune systems of the population.
Mm.
And it's been a big learning curve, but it's also been very insightful. in terms of learning, what works, how the immune system works. I mean, I've learned quite a bit about the immune system and what's required. And the ancient principles still work. It's just you have to sort of fine tune and add and consider
Mhm.
other things in the process. So I'm doing a combination of biomagnetic therapy,
Oh,
which is
interesting.
very powerful, with the acupuncture. I use a very interesting PEMF device, which is pulse electromagnetic field frequencies, which really help to open up the circulation.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's been a lot of blood issues and,
Mm-hmm.
stagnation of blood. And Chinese medicine, both in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, says blood is the mother of qi, or the
Mm-hmm.
mother of energy. And if the blood is stagnant or clotting or anything like that, that's going to impact everything. And
Yeah.
that's one of the big issues that have happened over the last few years is people's blood has become quite toxic and
Mm.
stagnant. And so the different nutrients, acupuncture, energy healing, PMF device that we use have all been extraordinarily helpful.
Okay, that's refreshing to hear. I mean, and there's an edge certainly to what we're talking about here as well. Like, Julie and I had left the country of Canada when the borders were closing, and those who were what were called by the the leader at the time was, a fringe minority. But I mean, I just had some serious questions and concerns. I still do. We saw, a lot of us saw documentaries, maybe in more alternative sources of people
Yeah.
being, dying suddenly and having like these like glue-like substances pulled from their system. So I'm grateful to hear that you found some therapies that have worked. Can you comment a little bit more about the immune system? Because I feel like, you know, um, whatever the intention behind things, I think we all have our own ideas. It
Mhm.
seems like there's a greater resilience to the human immune system than maybe was considered. Um, can you you must have because you have such practical working with people and seeing them heal and go through things. Can you discuss that a little bit, maybe from some of your perspectives?
Sure. Yeah. I think one thing you said that I think is really true is the resilience that people have, more so than, it still surprises me. Like even with my cleanse program, I may have someone join the program whose lifestyle is a wreck and whose diet is a wreck, horrible junk food, and I'm sometimes I often think, can they actually do this?
Hmm.
And, after a couple days of struggling, maybe then they get into the zone and then they love it. And then they find the experience of the benefits of it. And it's, people, you know, and that's, I would say, one of the biggest problems with modern medicine is the assumption that people can't make changes,
Mm-hmm.
that they can't do it
Yeah.
and that it's impossible. And that why ask them to do it if they can't do it? So better give them some kind of pharmaceutical
Hmm.
medication to just help them
Hmm.
suffer less,
Yeah.
not really getting to a core. So the immune system, very interesting. I mean, in very simple ways, it's, what comes in, the body attacks if it's not part of the body, but then the body remembers and it responds next time it comes in. But there's also the balance of the immune system where the body is meant to attack something if it's not meant to be there. And then once that's done doing that, that part of the immune system, it's a cytokine. It's meant to calm down,
Mm-hmm.
and another part is supposed to come up to help with deflaming and clearing out the debris. And what happens in long anything, whether it's long flu, long COVID, long cold, long Lyme, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it tends to be this overreaction of what we call IL-6, that cytokine that stimulates, and an underreaction of the IL-10 or some of the other immune markers to help calm things down. So the body stays in a chronic inflamed state. It's a little bit like pouring water and gasoline on a fire.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to put the fire out, but you're putting gasoline on it at the same time.
Interesting.
So that's been a big part of the problem
Mm.
that we've seen over the last couple of years is, and that's really brought to light that issue. And that's what many people were calling a cytokine storm,
Okay.
where the cytokine was, it just kept going. It wasn't turning off. And that has to do with a lot of different factors, some of them being just general overall inflammation in the, and also a deficiency of very important antioxidant such as glutathione,
Mm.
which decreases over time. The amazing thing of, what is it that calms down that IL-6 are, there's many herbs out there that
Mm.
can be helpful for that. Black seed cumin oil
Hmm.
is one of the best things for that.
Oh, interesting.
Quercetin, which we heard of. And maybe we've even heard of things like tobacco or
Hmm.
nicotine. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
something that you've heard of. And
I
that's
have.
been
Yeah.
quite amazing for some patients of mine. It's been really quite remarkable to see
I,
how giving them the right thing and changing the diet really makes a difference.
I thank you for, I mean, there's so much. I feel like my background in indigenous wellness and also like my own passion in holistic health, I feel like there's so much I want to talk about with you. But first, like to step back because as I understand it, the divergence of like there was a time where pretty much all medicine was more naturopathic, and then there was this divergence which leaned more towards this victim ideology of like we're either a victim of genes or germs, which is now what most people would call medicine, and that led to like pharmaceutical practice. That's my understanding of like of the kind of the divergence that happened. um I think so much of what you said is so important, and I would love to get into some practical tips for people who are looking to reduce that inflammation response. And I hear you when you say there's lots of factors. I imagine it's related to, people's lifestyle, whether they're, dysregulated nervous systems or in, fight or flight a lot. I also think that, we're supposed to be connected to the electromagnetic field of Mother Earth more than we are,
Yes.
like earthing and grounding. So,
Yeah,
um, eh, but
absolutely.
it's interesting what you said. I've heard black seed cumin oil just kind of in the ethers, but I heard a really interesting talk about nicotine, and it's significant to me because how nicotine was introduced to me or to tobacco is through a one of the four sacred medicines as it relates to people. And you'll often notice in indigenous circles, like tobacco is used as a communicant medicine, whether you're asking
Yes.
for something, if you're harvesting medicine plants, it literally is a medicine that is considered a communicant. And the talk I listened to, I forget his name, but it was with the Human Garage folks, and he was talking about like you would have expected that smokers would have had the worst time during
Might have been
COVID.
Brian Artis, Dr. Artis, possibly.
Yes, it was him.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. So that's really interesting that nicotine kind of pushes out the toxins. And he talked about
Yes.
how COVID was more of a it
A
was a
venom.
poison, a venom.
Yeah.
I thought that
Yep.
was just so fascinating. You don't hear a lot of people
Mhm.
talking about that. So it's so
Yeah.
so it's that's in alignment with what you're finding too. It sounds like Jonathan.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Okay.
is. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, he has his theories about the sources of it and
Yeah.
everything. But as far as I'm concerned, I do agree that it's venom-like,
Hmm.
you know, and wherever it came from, wherever,
Yeah.
lab or
Yeah.
whatever its source, it's venom-like. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of things in nature that can be like that. And, even in Ayurveda, just because it's a venom doesn't mean it's not all venom is evil.
Of
I mean, in
course.
other words, every herb, in one sense, at a certain point can become a
Hmm.
toxin.
Hmm.
But even a toxin, even, you know, in Ayurveda, even very small amounts of arsenic were used
Hmm.
as a stimulant to the immune system to do something else.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it's not like, oh, arsenic's good, so let's just take more of it. But, used wisely, almost anything, it's described that an expert Ayurvedic doctor can be in a room with practically nothing in it and can create medicine for anything,
Oh, wow.
by scratching the walls and heating it a certain way. And, you can use
That's
almost
amazing.
anything. You can create a
Wow.
medicine in many, many different ways. But yeah, the nicotine thing was fascinating. I found that really fascinating.
Well,
Yep.
after that, I had a few times I made tobacco tea for myself because I didn't want to go buy patches and I had
Yep.
access to natural tobacco. And I
Yep.
could, I've been in, sacred pipe ceremonies and things like that, and I've noticed it change in the state of consciousness. But having the tea, I really felt like this underlying current of energy. Like it definitely, and I think this is an important thing that I noticed the difference between the mainstream medicine approach. It's very objective, kind of like take a pill, solve a problem. But the natural medicines from all various cultures, it's more relational, like and my understanding, a lot of the medicine people that I've met, when they're going and harvesting things or when they're preparing things, there's a certain intentionality to the preparation of that medicine. Like it's made for a
Hmm.
certain thing, like you said, a certain degree can be harmful compared to a small degree, and there's also like a there's a consciousness exchange between the
Yes.
medicines, right?
Yep.
So I feel like so many people are looking for more of this connection now. Jonathan, have you seen a big
Yeah.
trend in your practice, like more seekers, more people who are opening their minds and hearts to
Yeah.
alternative treatments?
I really have, during, as we know, during COVID, there was a tremendous amount of polarity that was created.
Hmm.
Um, but many people, and I think of it a graph, many people who, uh, I'll just say, went a certain direction and just kind of surrendered to the recommendations that were
Hmm.
being given. Um, Many of those people are reevaluating things and re-looking at things and wanting to reawaken their health and their understanding of how they can better take care of themselves. So there is a huge wave, another wave happening right now,
Hmm.
and the scale is tipping in the other direction right now, which is really good. And it's also grateful to the pioneers and the scientists and the doctors who were willing to put themselves out in the front
Hmm.
and take risks and do the
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good research that's come out now, and it's pretty darn good research.
Hmm.
And so people are considering that because in the Western world, yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing. You trust science, but okay, now we can trust real science and we
Yeah.
can really look at it objectively and look at both sides of the picture.
Yeah.
And so many people are trusting real science. And in doing that, they're waking up to, yeah, I got to take better care of myself. I want to learn about these herbs. I want to learn how to, like you mentioned, connect to the earth better
Mhm.
and do things that are actually more beneficial for my life, for my immune system, for my longevity, for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, in this topic of science, and this idea, all the rhetoric we heard, there's a certain level of just like I think in all spiritualities, like there's certain dogmatism, I think that, a lot of material dogmatistic science is it almost took on a religion form of its own. But
absolutely.
in my awareness, like top minds in science are often come to a realization, there's the question of first cause, there's the question of consciousness, there's clearly evident in all of nature is, the miraculous, even a seed turning into a tree and turning into countless more seeds. There's deep questions that I feel like a lot of indigenous sciences, and I would include like Ayurvedics and traditional Chinese medicine as these approaches, like they were aware of the ineffable that none of us have the capacity to fully understand all of creation. Like we only have a
Mhm.
limited lens, and we're evolving as a species to greater understand that. So, I mean, my view, and I'd like to hear yours, Jonathan. Like, I saw from a holistic perspective of oneness, like I feel like there are things we go through a collective as a species, and COVID was one of those things that was an opportunity to awaken to a greater realization of the interconnection of all of us, if anything, and you could take on a side of polarity, and I think that at certain points during it was like it was inevitable that you had to choose one perspective over another. It was hard to maintain a wholesome perspective the whole time when someone's yelling at you to keep a mask on or something. But
Yep.
like I I'm curious because you have a background in like Ayurvedics and like I know you're practicing with people one on one, but I know also that those scientists talk about these cycles of creation that we go through, with and I understand that we're in the Kali Yuga, this
Hmm.
forgetting time, and that we're coming into
Yes.
an opportunity of perhaps remembering during that time a greater degree of who we really are and our
Mhm.
interconnection. What would you say, like, what's your overall view of where we're at as a species in looking at this picture that we're given right
Well,
now?
so from a very broad perspective, that's a great question. Um, you know, I think that yes, that this whole COVID thing uh, was an amazing opportunity for people to reconsider things.
Mm,
And yeah, there's going to be, there will be the bell curve. There's going to be some people that, are likely going to just stay very fixed in their view.
mhm.
And there's going to be a number of people, and there are, that are reconsidering things and waking up to new possibilities.
Yeah.
I mean, I see people even coming into my practice that 10 years ago would have never considered even stepping close to my door. I have a client, he's a great guy. He's a lawyer and he's very logical.
Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, man, I'm just feeling better. I don't know what to tell you, and his wife is sort of psychic and it's just so funny. But, he's just really opening up to it
Mhm.
and he loves it and it's
Mhm.
helping him. And so it's kind of shifting his mind and he's opening up to what's possible, you
Yeah.
know. From a broad perspective, yeah, you really touched on something very powerful. Um, the different cycles of time. And those cycles, there's the golden age, the silver age, the bronze age, and the iron age, which is Kali. And this is the age we're in right now, according to Vedic astrology,
Mm,
that we're in a time of descent, and it's described that in the age that we're living in right now, that the qualities of anxiety and uh, quarrel are very prominent.
mm,
So I mean, I sort of joke like in a group, how many people here can say they're not in anxiety
mm,
most of the time? And very few people raise their hands.
mm.
It's a very prominent quality.
Yeah.
So the good thing about anxiety, it pushes people to, either hide
Mm,
and just stay in the dark, or it pushes people to, you know what, I want to wake up
mm,
because I don't want to live like this.
mm.
And it's also said in this Kali Yuga, in this particular one, it's called the golden age of Kali Yuga,
Oh,
which
interesting.
means there's an opportunity. It's called Danya Kali Yuga, means it's intense in both directions.
Mm,
So it means it's intensely challenging, but intensely opportunistic
okay.
for spiritual healing and growth.
Mm,
So the both are very powerful. In this particular, there's different Kali Yugas. We've gone through
mm,
many, many, many in
mhm,
this universe already, but we're in an intense one right now. But the spiritual opportunity for healing and growth
mm.
is considered to be like none other of all the other Kali Yugas. So it's a very powerful time right now
I'm
also.
I'm I'm getting chills, Jonathan. I appreciate you saying this actually, and I'd like to share something with you that maybe you have not been exposed to.
Sure.
It's the foundational principles of light heart vision, and they're known as the Christ letters from Christ's Way, and I discovered these about 11 years ago now,
Mhm.
and circle back 10 years before that. Christ actually appeared to me in the forest, but I am not.
Wow.
I do not have a religious background, and I very much have a scientific lean towards everything. I want to know the truth. To me, truth is the North Star. Even if it's an ugly one, I'd rather know the truth than be in
Mhm.
delusion. Um, these letters, though, Jonathan, he says exactly what you're saying. The story of
Wow.
them is he appeared to a woman also in 1960. She was told to leave her kind of ego out of it when she was basically prepared for 40 years to transcribe these letters. And in them, he does say that we have, it's basically there's a divide, not intentionally, but either you can go more into the diversions and darkness or
Yep.
awaken. And there's this opportunity, the consciousness energies that are available on our planet are so available for folks who want to awaken. It is a golden
Yes.
opportunity, I feel, and
Yep.
he's calling for people of all perspectives, backgrounds, even
Hmm.
atheists and scientists, to recognize the co-creative uh, power that is our collective consciousness, and how it affects our
Hmm.
weather patterns, how it really affects everything. And if we will even just practice brotherly love and then move into true spiritual enlightenment like he experienced, so he corrects a lot of the dogma, and I think it's very much in
Hmm.
alignment with what Buddha talked about, and what a lot of like even the Sufi principles, this idea of
Hmm.
bringing heaven into the earth. And like every indigenous perspective that I've heard, it's being like we are the land, and we're awakening the land by becoming more and more of conscious within our
Hmm.
bodies, and
Hmm.
developing those connections between one another, like igniting one another. So I just wanted to share that with you because I think it adds to
Sure.
what you're saying in a pretty profound way. We are
Yeah,
in a
I'd love to if you shared that with me after the show at some point.
Absolutely. I'm happy to
Yeah.
send them to you. It's like my favorite thing to give anyone in the world, because they're letters. What he says is they're a bridge in consciousness between his transcendent consciousness and our own. And I can
Mm.
attest to being able to hear his voice more clearly, and recognizing that, there is a whole realm of Christ conscious beings that are
Mhm.
innumerable, I think, and all have different perspectives and gifts. But he
Sure.
in particular, Yeshua, known as Jesus, he had a very a very significant impact on speaking of time and how we refer to time on our planet. He showed a pattern of possibility that has never been demonstrated by another that I'm aware of, and he told us that we could do these things and greater. So in
Right.
the letters, he outlines more of what he meant by that, and
Mm,
so yeah,
beautiful.
my pleasure to share it with you.
Okay,
Um,
beautiful.
Sorry, I didn't mean to detract too much for the
No,
conversation.
no, that's I mean that this is my passion. I love this stuff. So
Okay,
yeah,
great, that's amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so what is on that topic of a higher vision and this era that we're going forward? You talked about this golden opportunity that we have during this particular Kali Yuga. What is your higher vision for the world? How would you like to see us to step forward as a species, Jonathan?
Mm, great question. Um, you know, I think the first thing that comes to me is to um, begin with an awareness of coming back to ourselves, and and it's it's almost easier to do it now than it used to be, in the sense that the distinction between connecting to yourself and the earth and the simple blessings of life are so distinct from the pressure of external life and all the wireless technology, the addiction to the phones and the videos and the all that stuff. It makes it so apparent that, when we take some time and put our feet on the earth, when we meditate, when we do yoga, when we walk in nature, swim in nature, climb mountains, when we farm, when we dig the soil, when we pray, when we chant, when we do these things, the what's the word I'm looking for? The distinction between what that feels like and all the other things you know, that we're often caught up in doing or encouraged to do, the feeling is very different. It's a little bit like, or I would say a lot like, coming home.
Mm,
And sometimes that distinction is really good, to have that, like, oh, wow, it really is a different state of mind.
mm,
It is really a different state of being. When life is good, life is easy, you don't see any issues coming down the road, sort of the illusion. I mean, before COVID, I mean, I was working more like a rat.
mm,
I was still doing my spiritual practices, but rushing to work, and some things changed. I
mm,
changed my morning routine. I extended it, to a couple hours every morning, and came into work a little bit later and really managed my time better. And so those things are really, really important. And then, of course, there's such a movement for permaculture and farming. And, my son is living in Portugal right now,
Mm,
living on the land and connecting with so many people who are creating these new communities that are, semi either off the grid or semi off the grid. And they're really working hard and they're really digging the soil and really building trees and farming and, cooking and just really reconnecting to the earth. And I think that's a huge, very important thing.
mm,
And then the other thing is, the tradition that I resonate with for many years is an Eastern tradition. It's a Kirtan Bhakti Yoga tradition.
mm.
It's a
Beautiful.
devotional
Mhm.
tradition founded by someone named Chaitanya back around 550 years ago. And
Okay.
he brought Kirtan to the world. And he opened
Mm,
it up from the temples and said, hey, the names of God are free. Just
mm,
go out there and, sing the names of God very, very freely and recognize your position and relationship with the divine very
mm,
simply. And that's a beautiful tradition. And he spoke a lot about the Kali Yuga and,
mm,
this particular age and how it's an age of, quarrel, degradation, anxiety, fear, but it's the most auspicious age. And
mm,
there's these beings, we may call them the angels,
mhm,
but in the Eastern tradition, they call them demigods.
mm,
And it said in this age right now, in Kali Yuga, the demigods are waiting in line to take birth.
mm,
They so much want to be here to become part of the awakening, the
mm.
spiritual awakening, because the opportunity is so intense right now.
Wow.
It's so powerful. So,
That's
yeah.
really beautiful. So much of what you said is so resonant. And really what's behind Light Heart Vision was is the birth of our daughter. We had the opportunity. We did it totally out of the medical system. Julia was just totally in a meditative state. We had a doctor who was trained in naturopathy, who was also a doula there, but she was totally in her sovereignty too. And I had the opportunity of catching our daughter, Jonathan, because there was no pain interventions or anything like that. Julia's consciousness was totally able to meet her. The oxytocin, of course, and everything is unblocked when you do it that way. But my pure experience was like, I talked a lot about how we're miraculous before that, but actually catching my daughter and having her presence look in my eyes right away, like she was so present, and then turned and looked into her mother's eyes, knowing exactly where she was in the room, as though to say, "Oh, that's what you look like." Like that's what I felt from her, and it truly was just the most profound embodiment of miraculous. And I told you some of the other things that happened to me in my life, but and I realized like we all come from this, and so
Yeah.
awakening to that. And so that's why to us, like Lightheart Vision is about helping people to come home, and our acronym for that is Heaven on Mother Earth. I even like to expand it out to Heaven Omni Mother Earth, just so it's radiating
Mm,
everywhere, not just on the surface,
mm.
like everywhere,
Omni. Nice. Nice.
Omni Mother
Beautiful.
Earth.
I love it. I
Thanks. I
love it.
appreciate
I
that.
love it. I
And
love it.
we've taken Luciana, whose name means light, right? So Light Heart Vision.
Mm,
We've taken her several times to kirtans, and she loves kirtans. We love going to them too. It's just such a
very cool.
beautiful expression of community,
Mhm.
and literally that community, that communication of our unity with the divine, and
Yes,
remembering that within one another as we gather. So thank you for sharing
absolutely.
that tradition. I really
Sure.
appreciate
You're welcome.
your devotional path. It's really important.
Thank you.
So here we are here, Jonathan. What what do you see? How do you see your practice evolving? You're coming onto podcasts and things, so you have a mission here to
Yeah,
spread the word of these treatments that are available for people. What do you want to talk a little bit about that?
sure. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been in practice since, when did I get my acupuncture license? I think it was 95,
Okay,
1995. And I started out as a massage therapist back in 87.
okay,
So, my practice has been great. Very steady. Been through, like I said, lots of cycles. Very interesting to see how even, Western medicine is sending people now these days, where 10, 15 years ago, they would poo-poo it, or whatever. So even though they may be in the system, many doctors are supportive, you know.
I'm glad to hear
Uh,
that.
yeah. Just, certainly much more so. And, for me, one of my biggest passions really is to start the ground up. And so
Mm,
this is why I've been leading these cleanse programs. It's
Hmm.
called the Total Life Cleanse since 96. And it's really, I mean, it's not like a deep, uh, we're not doing uh, colonics. We're not doing, people can do colonics, but it's really a diet lifestyle program change.
Okay.
It's really about, taking the junk out of the diet, supporting, yes, supporting organs of detoxification, changing the lives. We do a media fast. We do a phone fast. Back in the old days, it was just television.
Yeah.
Now it's like it's much more difficult,
Mm,
but people's lives really shift
mm,
and they reconnect to themselves. And
mm,
then we bring in the Ayurvedic principles, which are common sense spiritual principles uh, that are related to physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health and the basic principles. We teach that. And so I'm very passionate about that because I see people shifting and taking more responsibility
hmm,
for their well-being. And the beautiful thing about Ayurveda, it's a sister of the yoga system.
mm,
And yoga is about connecting body, mind, spirit,
hmm,
or spirit and divine.
hmm.
So it's about connection. That's what
Yeah.
yoga means, to connect,
Yeah.
is all it really means. So when people have a better understanding of the interconnectedness of everything, of their body, mind, spirit, and the spirit with the divine, and just by having that concept open up in their consciousness,
Mm,
then the things that they do in their life to improve their life, I would say exponentially have more meaning.
mm,
You know, when they feel better, when they think better, when they digest better, when their immune system works better, uh, when they're just calmer mentally,
mm.
when they know what they're doing is good for them. It's so much easier to meditate. It's so
Yeah.
much easier to even whether wherever someone's at, beginning, you know, or someone who's been practicing spiritual practices for many, many years, even for people that are like, oh, I'm not so sure about God or spiritual life, or if I'm a spiritual being, they're more willing to explore those realities in themselves. And
Mm,
like you said, it's not about being a religious person or taking up a dogma, but really starting out with, I mean, what does Ayurveda say? There's a word dharma, which is a
hmm,
beautiful word. Dharma means that energy which is, or that quality which is inherent in something. So
mm,
the dharma of water is liquidity, the dharma of fire is heat and light. You
mm,
can't separate the two. So to start out with, we all have a dharma, we all have a purpose, we all have a gift.
hmm.
Um, and then what does Ayurveda say about what is our eternal Sanatana Dharma? Means the eternal Dharma. And what is that? That's love.
Mm, mm.
The Dharma of every single living entity, every soul is love. The
Yeah.
animals want love. The insects want love.
Yeah.
The criminal wants love.
Hmm,
The hater actually wants love.
hmm.
It's all about love.
Hmm.
So that's real spirituality. And I always
Yeah.
say that, like, any spiritual path that doesn't have that as its underlying core, then I usually would recommend, if people ask my recommendation, would go somewhere else.
Yeah.
you know,
And
because
fast.
that's not, if that's not it, if
Yeah.
that ain't there, then go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Find something else. But that's I'd say that people are awakening to that reality,
Mm,
consciously or unconsciously, more so these days. So my passion is the cleanse, and also the energy healing that I love to teach is
mm.
based on the Ayurveda principles. There's 24 elements in Ayurveda,
Okay.
and so what we do in that is we teach how to balance all those energies within a person,
Okay.
ultimately leading to their most essential inner being. And it's a very
That's beautiful.
powerful form of energy healing. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. So much of there again, super resonant. My perspective at this point in my journey is that love is the only creative power, and
Mm.
it gives freedom to the ego drive to create for itself, which is love. Love allows free will, but I think it's to a point where every ego drive will eventually recognize that it's really the only place worth creating from. And even
Yeah,
though I
it's
feel like
true.
there are ways that some beings learn to feed off of fear and the energy of that, it's like degraded, pinched off energy that's not it's not
Mhm.
genuine. And
Right.
I love that you take this whole total cleanse. I feel like so many people would benefit from media cleanses. Like I no longer watch any form of mainstream media. Really, it's very rare, even if that we consciously choose a movie or something to put on. Certainly no like no news or anything like that. And I include both sides in that. And it's really just given me more awareness of like what is real and things
Yeah.
I have direct control of, like where I'm putting my attention, what's in my immediate environment, who's right in front of me that I can be present with or maybe help
Yep.
in some
Yep.
way. So it's so important to go on those fasts. I'm just curious about, like you mentioned dietary cleanses and lifestyle cleanses a lot, Jonathan. What have been, because there's so I feel like there's a lot of people when they start opening these doors, there's so many different divergent voices. Like on one extreme, people say you shouldn't eat anything but animals, and other people say you shouldn't eat animals or anything from animals. And then there's all these like all these voices. Is it true that we each have our own unique constitution, or is there a general pattern that you've seen, like people go through the most transformation when they adopt a particular kind of
Yeah.
lifestyle
I
change?
mean, yeah, yes, we all have our own individual constitution. That's called a dosha.
Okay.
Dosha means fault tendency, actually. So
Oh.
it's based on, we're all made up of the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether is an element. And we're all a combination of those elements. And some people have more earth, some people have more water, some people have more fire, and they have physical, mental, emotional correspondences with each element. So based on our constitution, yes, our diet, our lifestyle, our exercise practices, our sleep practices, so many different things can be informed by understanding what our dosha is, our type.
Mm.
And we need another hour just to talk about, the
Uh,
details of that.
yeah.
But so the individual aspect of it. So, you know, personally, I've been vegetarian since I'm 22 years old. The only thing it hasn't done is grow my hair back. But um, so I'm looking at it from different angles. I would say the first thing, and one reason why a lot of these diets work, this diet or that diet, whether it's, maybe not fully extreme like carnivore or fully extreme, vegan raw,
Mhm.
those would be sort of the opposite, I guess you would say. But a lot of the ones in between are basically saying, don't eat junk food, don't eat crap, don't eat chemicals, eat whole food,
Mhm.
um, lots of, maybe two-thirds of your plate, plants. And, just that is going to make a huge difference for many, many people.
Mhm.
Um, you know, the reason I'm vegetarian, almost vegan, because I don't do well with dairy typically, um, is not is not just because of the health benefits, because for many there are, you
Mhm.
know, but to be a healthy vegetarian or vegan, you have to eat well.
Mhm. Mhm.
You can't be you're not going to do well as a junk food vegan.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
You have to be intelligent about how to eat and know what works for you. Um, but, we do it from a perspective of, if you can avoid causing suffering to other living beings, then do it. It's
Mhm.
called ahimsa. Then in this, ahimsa means nonviolence, but, you know, I even like I said, even though I'm almost all vegan, uh, I don't appreciate the sort of the negative version of a vegan
Mhm.
because, the truth is, uh, no matter what we do, we can't help cause some harm in this world. As one of my teachers said, this world is no place for a gentleman,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
because, we have to cause suffering. If we eat a potato, we kill the potato. Eat a carrot, we kill the carrot. We walk on the ground, we kill an ant. So, we drive a car. How much did that living entities did that, harm in that process? So we shouldn't be, feel too uh, arrogant
Mhm.
about what we're doing. But, in my particular path, it's more, um, okay, I'm just gonna see if I can live my life to the best that I can,
Mhm.
with causing as little suffering to other living beings as possible. In Ayurveda, in ancient Ayurveda, meat was not really included in the diet. It was included as a medicine from time to
Interesting.
time.
Oh, okay.
It was
I've never
medicinal
heard
as
that before.
opposed to a foundational part of the diet. I am concerned with the carnivore diet for those that I know some people do really well on them for a period of time,
Mhm.
but there's some indication that down the road it could be, there could be some problems for
Mhm.
that, higher levels of cancer, things like that.
Mhm.
So, but for my patients, I'm really finding what is the best route for that person,
Mhm.
best for them. I know there's, many friends of mine who are practitioners who are, say, vegans, they might promote that with their patients 100%. With
Yeah.
my cleanse, we have like the 28-day version. We have about a 10-day window of that cleanse, which is pure vegetarian.
Yeah.
And then we kind of talk about people, supporting them in other ways. But a lot of those diets work well because they're just cleaning up the diet
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Makes
they're eating
sense.
a moderate amounts of, even if they're eating, meat, they're eating moderate amounts. They're
Mhm.
not eating, big slabs of steak with a couple peas on the side,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Well, it
So
makes sense. And as I understand it, Jonathan, like we don't even fully understand the digestive process, and like we're such a micro symbiotic being that like we have I've heard 100 to 1,000 times more bacterial DNA than human DNA in our system. So like we are
yes,
so reliant. So it makes sense when you like you were talking about earlier, with some of your clients who are like junk food and not exercising. And as soon as they take a break from that and start a different lifestyle, how resilient the body is to
yes,
just
yes,
returning. It was I remember one of the first books I was introduced to naturopathic perspectives is Eating Alive. I forget the author's name, it escapes me, but
mm,
that's one of the things he really emphasizes, like how wild it is that we are still functioning as human beings based on how we eat, especially the food combinations that we eat, and just
yeah.
how we are actually still walking around. Like he was just, from a place of like just almost disgust, like the way we treat ourselves, and yet we're walking around and
Here
having
we
a good
are. Yeah,
time.
it's
Take some
amazing.
Pepto-Bismol, and that just adds
Right.
some some liquid
Yes.
to the fire.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that I feel like you've given some folks some considerations of maybe how they can even just stop doing some things that are causing
Yes.
harm to
Yeah.
themselves and to the environment and to those around them.
Yeah.
And that just that break alone. Even I've heard
Yes.
some healthy perspectives of like even just not doing so much to start, like doing 10 days, I think vegetarian, vegan, it has huge benefits and people can see a change in energy,
Yeah.
and then add to that, going and spending time in nature. If you can, take your
Absolutely.
shoes off and just doing some of that connecting, because
Yep.
to me some of my most profound moments have been connecting with Mother Earth, connecting
Yes.
to the beautiful, uh, you know, really hard to put in words, energies that are available to us when we just stop the incessant thought process and just go spend some time, what they call it, nature bathing, right?
Yes.
And how important that is.
It's very, very important. Very
Yeah.
important. Since in the 60s, the shoes became rubber, the soles,
Yeah.
before they were leather.
Hmm.
And, the energy from the earth could come up through the feet. But we've been so disconnected. And I think, the more people can, and these are all common sense things. They're not, yes, I mean, it's beautiful when science shows it. I mean, we always love that when science goes, oh, yeah, they can show the biochemical changes that happen uh, when we make those changes. But on another level, I've always been like, I love science, I love all that, but I'm always like, well, let's just do the stuff that works, and it's all based on common sense.
Yeah.
And pretty much everything that Ayurveda has ever said, uh, Western science has never proven to be wrong. I've
Mm.
never seen anything that Ayurveda promotes that somewhere there's something that actually shows that it's not true.
Mm.
So,
Interesting.
these common sense teachings, uh, they're still applicable now. And I think, personally, I think the more we can just jump into them without waiting for science to prove it, because we have an experience of it, and let our
Mm.
own experience and our own intuition be the guiding force. And then it's a perk when science proves it. And we get
Exactly.
to say, yeah, I knew it. I knew it,
That
But
makes so much, yeah, it makes so much sense. very practical.
we sort of don't have time. Life is relatively short, and
Yep.
we don't have time. I mean, I had discussions with doctors before about using certain amino acids, for example, for brain chemistry issues. And this was many years ago. And he's like, well, there's not been the studies, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And my answer is, you know what? I don't want to wait 10 years for your studies to come out
Yeah.
because you're not going to put money into it anyway,
Yeah.
or 20 years, or maybe never,
Yeah.
before I can give this person an herb or a supplement
Hmm.
and they can feel better in, 3 days.
Yeah.
So I don't need your science to prove it.
Hmm.
Now, if you want to back it up and show it, fantastic. That's going to help another huge group of the population that sort of depends on that.
Hmm.
That'll help them move in the right direction. But for the most part, I just say go with common sense, go with guidance. There's certain things like in America, we have big issues with wheat and dairy and the quality. So,
Hmm.
so many people are sensitive to modern wheat.
Well, it's
Uh,
glyphosates, right? Because like in the
Glyphosates,
West, they're
exactly.
spraying.
Yep.
It's not, my wife, we dream of a summer home in Italy so that we can have a really clean, nutritional availability because
Yeah,
she lived in Italy and had no problems. And as soon as she came back, all these
exactly.
symptoms come up. A lot of we've taken on this like
Yes.
everyone's gluten sensitive, but really it's because of our practices.
They
Like
split this
they just
exactly.
don't allow the spraying of Roundup in Italy.
Right.
They
No,
would be
exactly. And
yeah,
I'm wheat sensitive here, and I could eat all the wheat I wanted there, no problem.
yeah,
No
yeah,
problem. Yeah.
yeah.
So true.
Well, a
So
lot of what
true.
you said reminds me of like seek first the kingdom of heaven, like
Yes.
choose what is in your wellness, choose what is loving,
Yes.
and then we're going to continue evolving and growing as a species as we awaken and the language of science develops more and more to
Yes.
understand the miraculous, really. Because I feel like
Yep.
that's what we're just trying to understand what's already here and then what's possible from what's here.
Yep.
So really, really important
Absolutely.
perspectives, Jonathan, and I really appreciate your work in helping
Thank you.
individuals to reconnect, to go through cleansing. I think someone told me this once. On the other side of healing is growth. Some people stay so much in healing mode, healing mode, healing mode, just
Mhm.
like you were talking about some of these long forms of illness. But really, there's growth and there's evolution past.
Mm.
Once we're connected again, we're feeling whole. Now we're able to contribute. We're able to
Yep.
add life and newness of life to not only our own lives but those that we touch.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you
Yep.
doing that work with people. I think it's really
Okay.
important. And it is a
Thank
book
you.
as well, right? Just so our
Yes, I
audience
have a
knows.
total life. I have a total life cleanse book. And
Okay.
in fact, I'll send you, it was like $50 to ship to Canada.
Oh no, really? Wow.
Yeah, so I'll
Wow.
just send you a digital version is what I'll do.
Okay. Oh, that's very
Yeah,
kind. I
I'll do
appreciate
I'll
that
do
very
that. No
much.
problem. Yeah, it's
Okay.
crazy. Um, but yeah, actually I have a client. I need to get going in a
Of
minute.
course. Of
But
course.
yeah, my book Total Life Cleanse, you can get it on most major, book outlets.
Okay.
It's a easy to read book. It's 400 pages, but it's easy to read.
Nice.
It covers all the reasons why we need to detox from a body, mind, spirit perspective, Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, the organ emotion connections, some, little Western science, DNA science, and the doshas combined. And so,
That's
and then the
beautiful.
second part of the book is the how-to part of it. But if
Okay.
you want to learn more about it, it's on my website, healingessencecenter.com, and you can see the other offerings that we have there.
Okay, that's
So,
wonderful, Jonathan. Really appreciate you. Before you go, do you have time for one more minute, or do you have to get off right
sure.
away?
One more minute. Yep.
I like to ask our guests if you had a megaphone and could talk to the whole world all at once, and everyone could hear you, what would you say to everybody?
Mm. What would I say? Ah, let go of your lust, anger, greed, fear, illusion, intoxication, and envy, and simply uh, develop love.
Mm,
Yeah, develop your love and come from love and follow your heart and the teacher, your own inner teacher, and your own inner teacher will also manifest outside of you
mm,
with the right teachers at the right time to help you on your way.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Appreciate that so much. You're really going to appreciate the cleansing of consciousness exercise
I'd
that
love to hear. Yep.
Christ shares in the letter. So I'll be sure to send that to you as well, Jonathan.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Blessings to you and all that you
Blessings to you
touch.
too.
I'm just going to invite our daughter Luciana to say thanks for watching, and if you need to hop off right now, that's totally good as well. So thanks so
Okay.
much,
Thank you.
and to our
Thank you
listeners,
so much. It was a real
thank you.
pleasure.
Pleasure
All
to
right.
you as well.
Blessings.
Bye
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. You say ciao ciao.
Bye.
I love you so much.